Hello, hello, hello. Margaret Lloyd here. Eternal Shift New Life. Part 2 of How to Stop Seeking External Validation. We're going to jump right in and we're going to learn how to stop that. So, let's go over the last part that I discussed yesterday. Is it realistic to stop seeking external validation? Certainly. There are some things you can do to stop seeking external validation so frequently and cultivate internal validation for yourself, which we will discuss in the last section of the post. But you know we're all about making lasting change here at the external and eternal shift new life. I decided to give myself a name that's a tongue twister, okay? But we'll get through it, absolutely. So let's just briefly touch on how to make change that stick. Our brains have this amazing capacity for something called neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to grow, adapt, and change as it learns new information. It's the brain's capacity to create new neural networks. Here's an example of how it works. Let's say you shop at Aldi for groceries. You know how to get there without thinking about it. You know where everything is in the store. And you have all of your usual weekly items that you buy. Easy peasy, no problem. Requires very little brain capacity to go to the store unless shopping with young children, because you've got a neural network set up for this. Now let's say you decide to start shopping at Whole Foods. Instead, you've got to pay attention when driving to the store because you've not been there before, as well as when inside the store because you don't yet know how it's organized, as well as you do know how Aldi's is organized. There we go. Don't know why that covered up, but so you might find some new brands for foods you purchase regularly. Your brain will be more engaged doing something new than when doing something you've done several times before. It won't always require more mental capacity to go to Whole Foods, though eventually your brain will develop a new neural network and you won't have to think about it so much. So, how to stop seeking external validation? Because what we want to have is internal validation. We want to validate ourselves. We don't need anybody else to validate us, to tell us that we're doing good. We know. Basically, we know if we're doing good or not. We just have to learn to stop looking for outside validation. We need to learn to validate ourselves. And I know that that's difficult, especially if you haven't been validated in your past. If you've never been don't feel like you've been validated, externally, how are you going to know how to do it internally? But we're going to learn. So, here are 5 practices to support you if you'd like to decrease how much you rely on external validation. Remember that our goal isn't to stop seeking external validation altogether. It's an important part of how we get feedback from others and cultivate our sense of belonging. We just want to make sure we balance the external validation with the reliance on internal validation. So here's what we have to do. Step 1. Find the root. Find the fear. First thing to do, in order to stop seeking external validation, is to ask yourself, what perpetrates this behavior for you? A lot of times, this is a rooted belief, like, I'm not good enough, or a fear of rejection, not being enough. It generally has something to do with beliefs about our value and worth as a human being. In my experience, people, including myself, who focus on doing more than being often have either a rooted belief. Let me read this sentence again because it's not making sense, okay? So let me start it over. It generally has something to do with beliefs about our value and worth as a human being. In my experience, people who focus on doing more than being often have either a rooted belief and or fear connected to their worth only comes from doing things so that other people perceive them a certain way. Hardworking, put together, confident, competent, smart. Once you know why you seek the level of external validation that you do, then you can address the issue at its core and overhaul your way and experience of moving through the world to stop seeking external validation so frequently. So let's think about that. Find the root cause for your needing the external validation. That paragraph is difficult to read. I'm going to read it again and hope that we can all understand it better the second time around, okay? Because if I can't understand it, I'm sure y'all are having trouble understanding it too. So that is the last thing I want anybody to do, is to have problems understanding what I'm reading. So here we go again. The first thing to do in order to stop seeking external validation is to ask yourself what perpetrates this behavior for you. A lot of times it's a rooted belief like, I'm not good enough, or a fear of rejection, not being enough. So we need to figure out what is our root. What is our fear? Is it I'm not good enough, or fear of rejection? All right? So we got through that part. It generally has something to do with beliefs about our value and worth as a human being. In my experience, people who focus on doing more than being often have either a rooted belief and or fear connected to their worth and only comes from doing things so that other people perceive them a certain way, such as hardworking comes from doing things so that hardworking, put together, confident, competent, and smart. Once you know why you seek the level of external validation that you do, then you can address the issue at its core and overhaul your way and experience of moving through the world to stop seeking external validation so frequently. So, in my case, it's a fear of rejection, not being enough. So when I seek external validation, that's why. And I have noticed that I don't seek the validation out as much as I used to. I still seek out validation, but it's less often. Step 2, pay attention to how you speak to yourself. And oftentimes we talk mean to ourselves. And that can cause a need for external validation. It's pretty common in our society to think that our words don't have much meaning, especially when we're inundated with so many words on social media these days. But I think that the words we choose can be quite revealing in terms of how we see ourselves and others, as well as the world around us. We can use language to stop seeking external validation so much by changing the way we talk to ourselves and shifting to utilizing internal validation more reliably. Listen to how you talk to and about yourself. Listen to how you talk about others. Are you constantly criticizing yourself and putting others on a pedestal? Are you full of judgment for yourself, but compassion for others? It's okay if that's the case. You learned that from somewhere, and it has meaning which you can go uncover in therapy if you're interested. But regardless, if you know its origin, you can still build an awareness of how you talk to yourself. From there, the next step is to choose to respond to yourself with compassion and respect. So when when you misplace your keys, you no longer say, "I'm such a dummy. Why can't I get my life together?" Instead, "Wow, this was stressful. Again, I like how it feels when I leave my keys on the hook. I'm going to work on doing that more." That's good. It's a better way to talk to yourself. Reduce comparisons. Comparison is the thief of joy. Theodore Roosevelt. So don't steal your joy. Don't compare. It's really tough to reduce comparisons and stop seeking external validation if you participate in social media. Most people are posting carefully curated pictures of their best lives and experiences for us to constantly compare ourselves to. I fell into this trap this last weekend after a Facebook friend posted something about a cool experience they were enjoying. I myself, forgetting that I had been in sunny Los Angeles just the weekend before, when it comes to reducing comparisons, you've got to find what works best for you. If reminding yourself not to compare while scrolling through social media works, that's great. I've found that I just feel better when I stay off social media. As a side note, I'm always awkwardly wondering if I bring up the stuff people post on social media when I see them in real life. Like, does that make it feel like I pay too much attention to your life? But then also, why post if you don't want people to know? Absolutely. Practice self-acceptance. Accept yourself. You are who you are. And love it. No reason to fight it. Love it. There's an interesting paradox between acceptance and change, where you must first accept things just as they are, so that there is space for change to come from it. From a brain-based perspective, it makes sense that you've got to be kind and accepting to yourself before you add a level of stress and pursue change. The prefrontal cortex, your third eye, the logical part of the brain responsible for rationalizing, organizing, planning, and logical thought, goes offline when we encounter too much stress. Yeah? Making it difficult to be intentional and enact change. As for how to practice self-acceptance as a way to stop seeking external validation so frequently, the best way I've found to do this is to learn to meditate. You meditate, you get into your private space. Nobody's going to bother you. Now listen, before you shut down to the idea, the goal is not to have a quiet brain. Perhaps not unless you want to become a Tibetan monk. No, that's not my goal. The goal for most of us is simply to let thoughts and feelings visit and pass without reacting to them. Meditation teaches us to be conscious observers of our inner landscape. And when we can observe without judgment, that moves us closer to self-acceptance. Be still and listen. Listen to yourself. Always practice self-acceptance. If we don't accept ourselves for who we are, how is anybody else going to accept us as who we are? They can't. If you cannot accept yourself, nobody else is going to be able to accept you. So you need to accept yourself, deal with yourself, love yourself, and you can get past needing all this external validation. You'll have the internal validation. So the last step, step 5, is to be still and listen. You have the power to stop seeking external validation by strengthening your sense of internal validation. We build internal validation by getting to know our individual internal landscape. And to do that, we have to be still and listen. You can cultivate stillness through spending time in nature, taking walks without your phone, meditating. I do take walks, but I always take my phone because it counts my steps. And I like to count my steps. Practice deep breathing, journaling, listening to motivational podcasts. Find a way to reduce stimuli vying for your attention so that you can turn inward and get to know your dreams and desires without outer influence. So let's recap. It's been a fun 2 days learning about how to stop seeking external validation. So we know that we all are wired to seek validation. We know that. And we know what external validation is. It's when we do something good, wear something new and somebody says something nice about what we're wearing, or if we made something, somebody will say something nice about it. So, we all look forward and enjoy validations because we want people to love us. We want people to be happy with us. So that's why we seek external validation. But external validation is not as important as your internal validation. Your internal validation is most important because, number one, how can you validate anybody else? How can you, if somebody were to walk in here wearing a Versace gown, how could I validate that person? If it was my mother walks in here in a Versace gown and looks beautiful in it, how can I tell her that if I don't have internal validation? If I don't love myself, how can I love somebody else? How can I tell somebody else that they look nice in that dress? If I don't have respect and care for myself, I can't have it for others. So that's one thing we must do. We must love ourselves and validate ourselves. Doesn't do any good to validate anybody else if you can't validate yourself. If you don't have the internal fortitude to love yourself, then don't love anybody else. It really isn't worth it. Why do you seek external validation? Because you don't love yourself enough. You need to learn to love yourself. Please. For many years, I did not love myself. I thought I did, but I really didn't. I cheated myself. I really did. For 30 years, I cheated myself. I had to go after external validation all the time because I didn't love myself. And I really didn't care about getting the external validation because I didn't feel like I was worthy of it. So, what are we going to do? We're going to find the root, the fear, what's causing your desire for the validation. What? You want to go see Shasha? And go see Shasha? Can't Mommy let you out? Or do you want to wait? Okay. I'm almost done anyway. So we're going to find our root, our fear, our reasoning for needing the validation. We're going to pay attention to how we speak to ourselves. We need to speak kindly to ourselves. Don't be mean to yourself. You be mean to yourself, I'll come over there and beat you up. We need to reduce comparisons. Quit comparing. When you get on Facebook or Instagram, don't compare yourself to what other people have posted. I don't. I post what I want to post, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. I don't care. But I am on Facebook to keep track of my friends, my diabetic friends. And I don't compare to them at all. None of us want to, we don't want to compare our numbers. Heck no. So reduce comparisons. Practice self-acceptance. Accept yourself for who you are. You're not perfect. You're not bad. You're who you are. And that's all you are. I am me. And you are you. And we're going to love each other as friends. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to guide each other to happier places in life. We're going to accept us. Accept who you are. I am Margaret Lloyd, 71 years old, gone through a divorce, third divorce, got subpoenaed today to go to trial for my ex-husband, go to his attempted murder trial next month. So, and then we just need to learn to be still and listen to ourselves. Listen to what we need. Listen to what our bodies need, our minds. And be positive. That's the last step. Stay positive. We all have a tendency to be negative. Stay positive. Positive, positive, positive. If you stay positive, your mind will be positive. If you stay positive, your body will be positive. If you stay positive, your spirit will be positive. That's what we need. Mind, body, and spirit. Positivity. All right, let's do that today. See you tomorrow. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share with friends. See you tomorrow. Peace, love to all.